Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
To someone who has never ever seen your work, how would you describe it?
Reasonably attractive. I don't know, I would say. I tend to paint the space around me. The visible world felt, as it were. So I live in the Hollywood Hills, so I paint the hills. Little house at the beach, so I painted the sea and the mountains lately. In doing this, of course, I explore the process of doing it as well, and enjoy myself doing it.
You seem to see beauty in Los Angeles where other people see warts and smog and ugliness. Is it because you're an outsider?
Well, I suspect you can see beauty anywhere you look, really. Isn't it in the delight of the eyes itself, I tend to think? The actual process of looking is a great pleasure. Beautiful. Los Angeles is a place I never understood why anybody said it was ugly. It seems a very beautiful city to me. It's spacey. You feel the space. Everybody's equally mobile. No virtue in having a chauffeur here, so everybody can get around in an equal way. And the city's well kept. I think it's full of variety. Wonderful mountains within it. I tend to find, I take my friends out there and I tend to find an awful lot of them have never been, just a few miles from here actually, which surprises me, but you can be closer to nature here as in a city. That's what I like. I think you're very aware of, I mean, Californians are aware of nature because they know its power. I mean, they know about earthquakes and so on. Whenever I think for a moment they've conquered it, they do know and understand that. But I think it's very good to be in a city that is still quite dominated by nature, I mean, for me anyway.
What about the mountains? What is it about the mountains that gets your juices going?
Well, you see more, you look down, you look up, you look across. I think just the fact that they're there. Florida doesn't have mountains. They're beautiful. I like the desert as well. I've gone to love the desert. But I combine it with music. I noticed driving out to the desert a lot, I used to play Handel's Messiah. To my amazement, it fit the landscape. Then I realized the reason they did this was all religions come from the desert, come from somebody going into a desert, a wilderness, to contemplate the cosmos on the dry surface of the earth, don't they? It's very good. It's very good for the soul. And very easy to do in Southern California, in a way, to go and feel the landscape that way. It's very good.
What about the ocean?
The ocean, well,
How does that...
I have a little house next to the ocean. That too is, well, in Southern California there's a part where you can live absolutely on the beach. It's amazing. Not many places in the world you could do that, I would think. But again, it's a very nice feeling, because I have a tiny little house, but I mean, you feel intimate with the infinite there. Very nice feeling. The ocean is another thing entirely. I mean, it's quite calm down in Santa Monica and Malibu. I mean, the ocean's compared to the North Sea in England, where I'm from, it's a rather calm ocean, aptly named, isn't it?
Does that influence your state of mind, work-wise, the ocean?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course it does. For instance, for years and years I lived in the flat areas of Los Angeles. So to me, Los Angeles was cubes and straight lines. 10 years ago I came to live up here, on Mulholland Drive. So I started, wiggly lines started to appear in the paintings because you feel them. If you were driving up and down here every day, Los Angeles isn't just straight lines and cubes, it becomes something else because you're feeling it, not just seeing it. And so it does affect you, it certainly affects me. As I say, I tend to deal with the space around me, or the space I feel I'm in. So.
What would have happened if you had stayed in England? Obviously you wouldn't be painting mountains and...
Well...
But do you ever think about that?
Well, I don't think about it now because I've been here quite a long time.
But suppose you hadn't had the experience of living in...
Well, I think it's a very small country, England, very small. You can drive across it in 2 hours. I think, though, I think this. I think I've often suffered a little bit from claustrophobia, or should I say, I enjoy the opposite, agrophilia, isn't it? Wide open spaces, which I think is why I live in LA, why I like the American West. You feel the wide open spaces. All you have to do is take a little drive and you really feel them. I think that plays a little part. I noticed that. I'm thrilled with big spaces. Rather hate small ones. Yeah.
Do you still maintain a home in London?
A little studio still to keep. But I've had it for years. It's just small. But I have 2 little dogs. I can't go to England. Can't take the dogs to England, so I have to go see my mother, who's 90 and lives in Yorkshire. So when I go to England, I go to Yorkshire, not London.
When you return to Los Angeles?
Little Stanley, good boy, eh? Mm.
Where do you take Stanley? Here, when he runs. It's 9. When you return to Los Angeles, when you get to LAX, what do you what do you notice and appreciate first about LA when you come home?
What do I like about LA?
Well, no, when you've been gone for a while and you arrive, there you are at LAX.
This is my home. Of course I like to be home. There's no place like home. I've been thinking of putting that up on the wall. A slogan I thought might look good over the door. Well, I love LA. We live very privately here. That's what I like as well. You understand?
What about the weather? You haven't said anything about the weather. Is that a powerful force? Well,
the climate is very, very pleasant here. It's very temperate on the whole. You come from England, where it can be very damp and very grey, very rainy, therefore very, very green, very nice. But I must admit, I tend to think like Van Gogh, there's more joy in the sun. So long as it's, as I say, so long as it's still temperate. Well, Southern California is a very temperate climate, very nice. That appeals to me. The fact that the light is very bright, everything's in focus, that too appeals to me.
Maybe in the early 20th century, if you were working then, you would have ended up in the south of France, like other artists. Is this the new south of France?
I've no idea. It's not. It's different from the south of France. You know, I come from the north of England. I'm a very provincial person from the north of England. I was 18 years old when I first went to London. So when people tell me is LA an art city or not and stuff like that, it just means absolutely nothing to me, because when I was a kid, according to me, some of the great works of art of the 20th century came from Los Angeles. I was seeing them at the cinema. And to me, it obviously, therefore, was a big, creative place with all kinds of people in it. So when somebody said, are there any artists there, I assumed there were. So I've never, you know, as I say, when the art world tells you, well, it's not very important, I don't quite know what they mean. I'm not quite sure what they mean by art either. But what more can I say?
Tell us where you take your dog when you come back. You can't take your dog to England, but what do you do with your dogs here? Did you take them out walking, or I know there's a park close by.
What do I do with the dogs here? I'd take them out walking, but there's too many no dog signs, I'm afraid. Getting much too hygienic out there. We have to oppose a too hygienic world. I do my bit.
Do you still have your dog park up here?
Yeah. But it used to be very nice, the dog park, but when the dead hand of the municipality gets on it, frankly, there's a whole 10 notices now where there used to be one. There's guards there, and I don't know, it's not the charming little place it was when I first got to Stanley, so I don't go there much.
Anybody else? Maybe a comment about your work for the opera?
Pardon?
Your work for the opera?
Oh, we're going to do another opera. Well, the next one I'm doing isn't for LA, it's for Chicago and San Francisco. Turandot. But then we'll do one for LA, another 2 years after that. Die Frau on the Schatten we'll do, yeah.
When you did when you did...
Stanley's very fond of German music.
I was just going to ask about the mountains. When you said you take your friends to the mountains, you do, quote, a Wagner run.
Oh, yeah, well, I have my... Well, when I was exploring the Santa Monica Mountains, I'd also put a new sound system in my car and eventually choreographed 2 drives where what you see and what you hear fits together, and using mostly music of Richard Wagner. It's very good, if I say so myself, but I'm doing it really for myself, for my own amusement.
Maybe one comment about the work you did for Tristan. Do we have an insert for Tristan?
Well, we were going to get inserts based on...
Can I ask a question about the technology you use? Los Angeles is California is such a technological center. Is that an influence on your exploring that field?
Well, I think what's going on here, obviously, in some ways, Los Angeles is a little bit like Renaissance Florence. There's quite a number of people here, in technical ways, trying to find more vivid depictions of reality, aren't they? Doing it in different ways. Some ways always getting it wrong, I tend to think. Nevertheless, I mean, even things like a real masterpiece, I think, in film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I thought was a masterpiece. Obviously, many, many people worked on that to do what they did in it, and it's a stunning piece of work, I think, marvelous piece of it. And obviously, those people involved know what they're doing. It had a level of wit that told me they knew really what they were doing, what they were playing with. They were aware they're playing with different levels of reality. It wasn't just a cute movie, it's a lot more than that, I thought. Well, I don't know the people doing it, but nevertheless, I'm deeply interested in photography and drawing merging in different ways, as they seem to be now. Opening up new visual possibilities in movies, I think Roger Rabbit does, I think.
I never got to see this process. That's what was so incredible. He took the film.
Wait, there's one with me in it.
But there he is. I didn't see him.
This was the last time it was in focus. They're not in focus anymore.
What do you mean? He's shooting.
He
shot it.
They are.
They are.
Isn't that wild?
I didn't get to
That's
see
the
them.
Santa Monica Mountains.
Where is that?
That looks like China.
Just above Malibu.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I must say I got car sick.
What music do you relate to?
Did you go on the tour?
You've already told us about the desert. And
See, I've been to see.
Tea time
What do you
here.
have with your tea?
No, it was like that out in the valley. Not sharp.
Yeah. Got dropped or something.
Is it?
Must have been. When it dropped too much, I'll either repair it or send it back.
Tea sandwiches.
Hey, look at these. These are Alaska as well.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
That's great.
I love people with sand with their umbrellas like that.
Yeah, I love umbrellas too. They're so visual.
Do I have to make sure you gave up the sand? Actually, if it was somebody else, they look fine.
Were you just in Alaska?
Yeah.
Yes, these are great.
Ah! God.
These were just taken on a ship with a cheap camera.
You know why? Because they look like they're hand colored. That's what I said to David the other day. They look like colorization.
But it's the light. The light there is sort of, the outside light, I think, is what creates the moodiness of just the outside of the Ascalon. They're so
That
beautiful.
one's beautiful.
I see. My neighbor was up in Alaska on a fishing trip, and he was up there when it was like day. He said the sun went down behind the mountain, and then it comes right back up about 20 minutes later. It does? Yeah.
I have
was
to
watching
do
the old
that.
movie
I want to
Titanic.
do that.
Oh, how appropriate.
I'm trying to do that. This is beautiful. Yeah, those are beautiful like that.